I'll try to get the Facebook, the YouTube going too if I can. Hang on. Let her come on in. We're recording right now. So we're just waiting for Lindsay to come in. What I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna open up the so people can just come on in. I don't have to keep looking at them. Hi, Lindsay, welcome.
Hi.
Lindell, excuse me.
Lindell, yes.
Yeah, I kind of combined. How you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing well, thank you.
Where are you?
Shane.
Where are you located at?
I am located in Guyana.
Oh, where is it?
Guyana. Not Ghana. Guyana. We on the tip of South America.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, that's
I am
fantastic.
from the Caribbean island of St. Lucia, but my business is located in Guyana.
I've been to St. Lucia.
It sounds like a little Caribbean accent going on there, Linda.
Yes, totally. I'm a Caribbean girl.
Oh, that's right.
I worked I was down in Bahamas running a hotel for a year down there. So
really, which one were you at?
I actually opened the Sheraton Westin Alakar.
Oh, the Sheraton. Okay. All right. I know the Bahamas well. Yeah. But I have lived here for 13 years.
How do you like it?
And ran my business here, nine of that 13.
Wow.
Yeah. So nice. This email came into my inbox, and I thought it was quite an interesting.
Great. Well, welcome.
Invitation. So I thought, let me just try it out and see.
Good. Give it a go. Well, it said it could be one-on-one here. You said I'm not sure who else is going to join us. It's like
exactly.
Yeah, you. Let's just we get to talk about you for an hour.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Right.
Well, so where do you base? So you're based. So where do you do a lot of your work then?
Okay, so a lot of my work is actually within the Caribbean region, but I also do work internationally because I'm not sure how much you know about Guyana, but Guyana has recently found oil, quite apart from what's happening these days with a very long and drawn out election process. But before the elections, ExxonMobil and all of its suppliers had been moving to Guyana to do work here. So my company has been working with them. And so I feel a need, not just because of them, but even before that, to ensure that we were not only Caribbean, but whatever we offer, we extend it throughout the world. Because once you're online, the world's your platform once you do the appropriate targeting.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, as I said, I know, I work down in the Caribbean, also at Turks and Caicos. I do some leadership seminars down there. So as I said, it's a great part of the world to be able to work in and give back to.
Yes, there's a lot, the need is great there.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, welcome. Hey, you can unmute yourself. You there? Oh, there he is. Hey, you can even get your camera going. Hey, how you doing, man? This is Shane. I want to introduce you to Mark here. Mark he's the head of CX Talks. He's a good guy for you to get to know and do stuff with. And Mark is tell Shane what you do, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
I think you're muted. You might be muted or your mic's going.
No, he's unmuted.
Yeah, you're not muted. I think you can.
Yeah, I've got this new mic.
There he is.
So I've been hosting events across the U.S. For about 5 years now. They're localized events, they're regional, and they're one day. And of course, now we can't meet over limits of 50 people. So we're pivoting over to webinars and playing around with different formats. Most likely, it's going to be a short weekly webinar or bi-weekly. So working on that, getting everything set up. We've had a few of them already, and we're looking for speakers. We're looking for topics that are relevant to today, and we're looking at things that people can put to use right now.
Yeah, listen, that's great. As I said, giving back, and there's certainly lots of opportunity right now to share best practices and ideas with everyone. So that's really cool. Nice to meet you, Mark.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, like I say, he's a good guy for you to know there, Shane, because You have so I've been Mark, Shane's been working together. We've been working together doing lots of webinars and trying to provide the best value we can for the members of the what I'm calling the customer service professional network. And Shane's been contributing. I mean, he's a real giver, and his information. We just had a guy last week that just is the best webinar he's been on. You know, because Shane just he knows his stuff. So I think it'd be a good connection, you two.
Absolutely. You can find me at mark@cxtalks.org, or I'll just put the email over here for you so you get it. Anytime you want to chat, just give me a call.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Excellent.
So good. Let's get a discussion going on here, guys. That's what we came for.
Yeah, listen, again, I think we're not, one of the things, I mean, again, Mark, you might have seen this out there as well, but, you know, there's a lot of webinars, a lot of preaching, a lot of teaching right now. But, you know, what the purpose of this roundtable is really just to get to talk, just to kind of see what are your different challenges. I mean, there's really only 3 or 4 of us talking on this. So it's a great opportunity for me to listen, but to ask questions. You know, I'll give you sort of the high level overview of my background. You know, obviously I focus on the CX and EX space. My sort of origins is New Zealand. But when I came out to the States, I was fortunate to be with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company for about 10 years. Did some stuff through Asia for them. And then started my own business, which was really consulting for hospitality organizations. So primarily customer service that then sort of naturally went into customer experience management. And the focus was how to create strategies. So we did a lot of work with the MBA, BMW on creating strategies for how to enhance customer experience. And what, from the hospitality space, we always talked about product, place, process, people. And what we came to understand, which I don't think is unusual, is the fact that people are truly the number one element that really determines your CX. And yet, when I look at so many organizations in their CX strategy, they often have people at the bottom. It's sort of the last thought. They're focused on process, they're focused on product, they're focused on where they're delivering it, and they miss out on the people. So for about the last 5 years, we've been really focusing in on culture and how people play a part in the customer experience. And we actually started mapping the employee experience. So we were really focused in on customer experience mapping and values and how to apply different procedures and tactics to that. And we started to do the same for the employee experience. And what we recognized was these key moments in an employee's experience that really does impact how they feel about what they do and who they do it for. And so we kind of started to now build out our sort of employee experience. I wrote a book called Culture Hacker. And it's really focusing in on ultimately delivering great customer experience, but also how do you improve productivity, proficiency, profitability within your organization through your people, not over the top of your people. So a lot of what we talk about today, particularly in today's challenging times, is that idea of how do you maintain a great culture? How do you keep your employees excited and focused? And really able to deliver great customer experience, recognizing at the same time that many of them may have gone through some sort of trauma, they're obviously feeling challenged themselves. So I think that's where a lot of our challenges sit today, is that idea of, hey, how do we get back to delivering great customer experiences, but at the same time, making sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that our employees need a lot right now. So that's kind of a little bit about my background. And as I sort of said, I'm doing a lot of consulting right now on how to maintain culture, how to get back on track. And so what we wanted to do today was to invite sort of some people and just have a conversation about challenges, opportunities that sit out there in the marketplace around your different industries, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, where you think you might need help, or where you think that there's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of what is going on. Because I will tell you, it's not all doom and gloom. There are opportunities out there. There are some definitely, and again, if you put your head in the sand, then you're going to miss out on those. And that can be a fairly easy strategy for companies in that right now. It's like, let's kind of hunker down, let's hold on tight, and then we'll pop out the other side. Whereas we'd argue that right now is the opportunity to actually do more, be more curious about your customers and your employees, asking more questions, and not assuming you know it all, because what we really do believe is that right now there are very few people that know it all. It's a brand new world. And so at this point, we're really just going, okay, how is it affecting you? How is it different from different people, different from other situations? And so today's roundtable is really about that, you know, to kind of hear from you, talking about how your customer experience, obviously it's been impacted, but specifically, what are you doing right now? What are your challenges with your employees? What are maybe some opportunities you see out there? And then we'll sort of finish up maybe with a discussion about leadership and what you believe leaders must be focused on right now more than anything else. So that's my introduction. That's kind of my framework. So why don't we sort of hear from you guys? Again, maybe another quick brief introduction. Could we kind of put a little bit from Mark, but I know Charles is just joining in. Kind of a little bit of an introduction of you, but talk about just at a high level your industry, but then just talk about what is the current state of your business, what you believe is out there, and more broadly for those of you that deal with multiple businesses, you know, where you see or what your viewpoint of the world is today. So, you know, Charles, welcome. You're sort of joining us. I'm going to actually get you to kind of begin our discussion today, and just talking about what you're seeing, a little bit about yourself and what you're seeing out there in the world.
So, hello everyone. I'm Charles Lautner. I'm the Director of Customer Service for SOR. We're a process controls and automation company. Our major industries are oil and gas and power generation. Those would be the two largest. We also do some food and beverage, some mining, some other industries like that, chemical industries. I think the number one driver right now is all of our end users are not allowing anybody to enter their facilities or to meet with them. So making sales calls and trying to generate revenue is quite difficult right now. Yep. The internal steps we have taken is anybody that is capable of working from home and performing their duties has been working from home. We've recently called our customer service staff back into the office, like within the last week and a half. We're doing pretty strict social distancing and wearing of masks whenever that is not possible. We've closed all of our conference rooms, and most, if not all, of our meetings are being done by either Teams or Zoom. The one good thing for us is we are considered an essential business because of the safety aspects of the products we make. A lot of our products are safety critical. One industry in particular, we supply to the nuclear power industry. And so we have to be open and have to be available to supply product if needed. So as for where we are, I think, you know, we personally, through the end of April, we had seen a decline in our bookings of maybe about 10%. The month of May was horrific from our standpoint. So I think we were a little bit behind everybody else in terms of seeing the downturn. But we were hit in May, and in June, surprisingly, we're a little bit off, but we're not off to the point where, you know, we're as concerned about things as we were. It seems like large projects we're doing a lot of quoting on large projects, but nobody seems to be pulling the trigger on those products right now. So, you know, we're in almost a hurry up and wait mode, right? Our quotations are well above last year, but our bookings are below last year. So I think that the economy and these industries at least are poised to come back and be strong towards the end of the year. Yep. But, you know, it remains to be seen on whether this continues or whether things kind of even out. So well, I think sorry that was very long-winded, but.
Yeah, but I think you're experiencing something that a lot of industries we talk to are going through downturns, that they're resizing, doing org resizing and all of that. So I think there's a hold off of pulling the trigger. But like you said, we're seeing a lot of companies out there looking for quotes, looking for things, but they're just kind of saying, hey, we're not going to pull yet because we've got to get our own internal sort of resources kind of done. So good kind of overview. And obviously some challenges with your employee experience, obviously a remote team and social distancing, which I think is interesting. And then what you said there is, it is much more difficult to sell, and yet that doesn't preclude you from relationship building. And so that's one of the things that we want to talk about, because there's still a big opportunity there. I think you have to be a little bit more creative. So we'll kind of come back to that. I think you've got a couple of CX and EX opportunities. So very cool. Going over to you, Mark, what do you think? As I sort of said out there, kind of reintroduce yourself to the group. We've got a couple of new people here, and what you're seeing out there.
Well, it's interesting. I have another business. My main business since '84 is marketing research. And I've been doing online focus groups and other types of things like ethnography for 36 years. Well, actually, the online stuff I've only been doing since about 2000, so maybe 20 years of that. I've had quite a few inquiries about doing research online, and have thought about giving a webinar on that topic. So there are clients that are still engaging, but they need to learn about new tools. And I myself have been sort of more focused on the CX talks and learning all the tools there, attending so many webinars. I'm zoomed out. But I think that the connection with people through things like this is good, but I do know that people are craving more interaction. They're missing that part of a live meeting where you do get to network. You can look at someone face to face and sort of have that. There are digital tools being developed every day to help facilitate that kind of thing. And I still continue to look at them and play with them. So the kind of comments I'm getting from people are, let's find a way to meet in person if we can. If we can't, then let's have more regular meetings or regular something that doesn't interrupt their schedule. And you had made the comment earlier about people being one of the main things. Some of the recent studies I've seen of things right now, it's about trust. And that trust can do everything from placing an order online to being able to communicate with someone online, to be able to build trust even though we can't meet together. So there's important things about that. Like you might see, I've got a digital background right now. A lot of people are not using that. I use it because I can put my logo here. Yep. But I think being real and being authentic and building that trust is really important in these times.
Yeah, listen, you're hitting that on there, and I think that's where the focus has to be around relationships, and it has to be about not making assumptions that the relationships you had before are the same today. That you can't make relationships that you are approaching things in the same way. And I did something a couple of weeks ago with a group, and I talked about curiosity probably being one of the most important traits that people, regardless of your role, position, or what industry you're in, be curious right now, and be curious about how people are doing, be curious about what they're challenged with, and then take that information and start to reconstruct how you can make a difference with them. So I think that idea of rebuilding trust, because it was broken many times, not from your fault, but just the way that the world has kind of evolved or done a left turn quickly. How do you build that back? I think it's still being the human side of being willing to kind of check in and see how people are doing, and not being so rushed to the transaction or the business part of any conversation. So again, thank you, Mark. So Lindell, let's get in there and kind of hear from a Caribbean perspective, but, introduce yourself again, and then just talk about some of the things that you're seeing out there.
All right. Hi, gentlemen. Good day. I am from the Caribbean, the island of St. Lucia. And my business is located at the tip of South America in a country called Guyana. So I heard Charles talk about oil and gas, so I'm sure he's probably aware of where I am, because we have found oil recently. However, I got to Guyana about 13 years ago because my spouse actually got a contract here. And so I moved over here, and service quality is a response. It's our signature program. We are a training and development company. My company is called Cerulean Inc. And so I got here, and I could have probably, there were lots of expats here, and I could probably sip tea and talk about what was going wrong, or I could have done something about what was wrong. And what was wrong was the fact that people were not the center of business. And so I decided that because of my work within the tourism industry in St. Lucia, I had worked on, I don't know, any of you heard of the St. Lucia Jazz festival. I was also in charge of yachting and cruise tourism in St. Lucia. So so service and service delivery was always high up on my agenda. So I responded to what was going on in Guyana by developing modules for training in service and service quality. And that up to today is still our signature program, but we've actually morphed into other things, other responses to problems that we saw. And most of you, it sounds like you are in some kind of training and development so far from what I've heard. And you know that this is the first thing that companies will literally cut budgets on. So we have had reduction in May. In April, we were about 50% of the sales of last year, but May was just a terrible month. 3%. It was really, really bad, and it has been really bad up to now. So we have been social distancing, and my team has been working from home up to now because we have a curfew here from 6 to 6, and so we are not allowed to reopen. And this has been very, very difficult for us. So what we've done is pull together like-minded industry persons and had some roundtables like this one that we are having here. And I also did a session for the Caribbean for the ILO, the International Labour Organization, where we pulled as well together like minds throughout the Caribbean. And so to be able to brainstorm on some of the ways of pivoting. Most recently, we have started doing webinars, which helps us to engage our audiences, and that has been working very well. We had an audience of 87, 72, and I've just checked my registrants for one that I'm having tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, yeah, Thursday. Tomorrow we are having collaborative philanthropy, because what we've realized is that many people are responding to COVID in silos. And I really believe in terms of brand awareness, if we come together, our reach is going to be better, and we are actually going to be, expanding our brand. So, we are doing that tomorrow on Zoom.
I mean,
so that's where we are in a nutshell.
I mean, it's great. And again, I think it's kind of like this. It's not about teaching and preaching right now. It's really about having conversations, because it's points that sort of Mark made earlier. People really do want to be social, and as much as they can't get face to face in person right now, this is kind of a next best thing, or at least a step down, but it is a step in the right direction. I've seen more than anything else is we do breakout rooms and that on Zoom in our training, and people just want to talk about everything. It's like, let me go. So I think that opportunity of bringing people together and just talking, even if it's an office, I kind of think, what Charles was talking about before, he's got an office there, but they still do their meetings on Zoom. So even though they're probably fairly close in terms of proximity, and you'd normally walk over to their desk or bring them together, we're still using technology to communicate. And quite honestly, in the near term, that is going to be the way that things are done, which creates a lot of issues that people are sort of talking about, but also huge opportunities as well. Because again, it's not just about kind of limiting now, well, we can only do Zoom because there is a Zoom fatigue. And so the question becomes, what can you do to make it more fun, more interactive, more engaging and worthwhile for people? Beatrice, I see you're in there. You want to come off mute and kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you're facing right now? Beatrice, are you there with us? Okay, well, it looks like you get to listen in, and we'll sort of talk about. So let's go back to the group now then. Let's kind of just talk sort of in that sort of space. We sort of heard a little bit about customers. We know business is kind of down. I think we all agree May was a pretty bad month, but we have started to see it coming back. We kind of touched on to Charles a little bit. He said sales is difficult right now. What are you doing to connect with your customers? And what are those connections like? What are the interactions? What have you found that's kind of valuable in terms of conversation and opportunities to create connection? I think Mark put it out there, develop some level of trust. So let's kind of we'll go backwards this time. Liddell, talking with you, what are you seeing, or what do you see the opportunities out there that you're coming as you're starting to reconnect with people?
Okay, so one of the things that that really worked was our COVID response. So the first thing I did was, and that was an advice from my IT people who said, you need to put something on your website telling people about how you're dealing with COVID, etc. So I thought that worked very well. In addition to doing that, because I had to give them a bit of a statement, I got a bit of an aha moment and said, okay, so I think I should do this on an email blast. So I did it on an email blast. The responses were phenomenal. And then we went on to think about, I also realized that when I asked people a simple question like, how are you coping? And that's my team. This little question brought out so much from our team that I did another mail blast on, just asking our clients, how are you coping? I got so many responses. I also got from that folks saying, we were thinking to call you up to arrange for training at that time. Because of COVID, can we schedule you for so? I actually got 2 people who asked us to invoice them. So that helped, you see.
That's good.
And I did that. So these are 2 things that I did.
Listen, I think you've struck on a couple of good ones. You can't beat around the bush. COVID is real. And again, I think acknowledging the reality of that is important. We've seen a good, tactic that we're all in this together. We've heard a lot of organizations kind of say, hey, listen, this is the rallying cry that can bring people together, bring teams together. I think the other thing that you said is right on as well. How are you coping, or how are you doing? We did that. We did wind resorts here in Las Vegas. And again, that was one of the first things we said. First, do it to your customers, because they were going on when the customers come back. Let's first reach out. So every person was given some customers just to reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? We just wanted to check in with you. What are you most looking forward to? How can we help in any way? And it just started to get people to talk again. And then they did the same for their employees as well. And so I think you struck on, it's that simple question is what I was saying before. It's not about a transaction right now. It's about how are you doing? And really listening to those answers that can have a huge impact. So I think a couple of great ideas there. Mark, what about for you? What's your sort of best practice or things that you're seeing to help connect you back with customers and clients? And how that is kind of maybe setting you up. Less about making sales and doing things today, but certainly for the future.
I haven't done it myself yet, but I have experienced this on a few things. Some of the longer events, like a summit event that lasts 2 or 3 days, I received from several of them a swag box. And the swag box was everyone's missing their coffee cups and their pens and whatnot. So I thought that was kind of funny that they would send that out. So that connected the real world with them. And also, I think being able to extend a hand out to people to connect and to set up one-on-one meetings just on a very frequent basis. Every day I have about, 5 or 6 meetings with people who I may not have met before. And I'm doing this through a couple of different groups. There's one, and I can share the invite with you guys if you'd like, but it's called Lunch Club. And basically you can put in your interest in this thing and they'll connect you with someone that's like your interest. You can choose the geography, you can choose the interest level. And it's fascinating because at that meeting, it's only 30 minutes long, but you can sort of get to empathize with other people and understand where they're coming from, total strangers. So you still practice the art of meeting and networking with someone who you've never met yet. You just have some things in common. So I'll put that link in the chat section if anyone wants to join it. Feel free to just click into it. It's no cost. It's just a fun way to connect.
Something that you said is really important is the idea of empathy. And, we often say that we're listening, but we're really not. And I think it's really interesting being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, because those are the type of the skills and habits that are developed as you do, over a period of time you become good at. When we talk to different companies and we sort of talk about where do you think the biggest challenge is, a lot of them talked about managers not being empathetic. It's like get back to business. And so when we've talked about training and just about discussions, this idea of empathy keeps coming up time and time again. As people have started to reopen here, people are like, let's get back to work. But it's not business as usual. And again, whether it's customer fears, whether it's employee fears, and again, Mark, the idea of trust comes back. But empathy, being willing to take a moment, and you said in 30 minutes, you have to actually actively put yourself into someone else's shoes, is such a good practice and such an important skill that we need right now. So again, really, really powerful. So thanks for sharing. What about over there, Charles? You started to indicate some of the challenges that you sort of had. And again, let's talk about, you can't do the face-to-face sales networking that you're normally doing. What are you doing, though, to kind of stay connected and to keep those relationships strong?
Well, our setup is a bit interesting because we are a rep centered organization. So we have representatives throughout the US, and then we have representatives in pretty much every country in the world. So, it's kind of their job to bring us the business, and then it's our job to execute. And so, we're trying to so they not only rep SOR's products, but they represent other products who are possibly taking a bigger hit than SOR is when it comes to the ability to generate revenue. So one of the things, every year we do a 3 to 5 day training with all of our reps where we go through, any new products. For new reps, we talk about our products and all those things. We had one scheduled in September, and
Am I the only one? Charles, I think you're breaking up a little bit there. Is it just me?
Sorry.
Cut out.
Yeah.
Am I still breaking up?
Now you're good.
Okay. Where did you guys lose me at?
The interesting part, I think, is you just told us you do the annual event, I think, in September.
Okay. So, what we decided to do, and it's actually going on right now, we're calling it doing a Zoom meeting with all of our reps throughout the world. So we're holding this training instead of having, we're doing it for an hour a day so as to not, screw up their days.
Charles, sorry, I think you break. I'm not hearing you too well at all. One of the reasons why I haven't put on the cameras, gentlemen, I have really bad internet here.
That's smart. So yeah, I think it just kind of, it's like it jumps.
Yeah, I didn't hear at all what you were saying. Sorry.
So my microphone actually kind of went out. I just restarted it. Is it better now?
Yep.
Oh yes,
Okay.
It's better. I'm hearing you clearly.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Right.
So to try to stay connected and make sure that they still get the up-to-date information and know that, we care about them as an organization, we moved this up several months and we're doing it through tomorrow actually. And I think the response we've gotten, we've ran out of room on Zoom. We've had to go and purchase more ability because so many people, and I think part of it is what you said, everybody just wants to be connected and, wants to be doing something because they're the ones that get in front of our end user customers, and they're the ones that can't get there right now. So we're just trying to make sure they know we're in their corner. We understand the issues, and, we're doing what we can to make sure they can still be successful.
So let's kind of jump on that a little bit, because I'm interested in going, we kind of said, we do it on Zoom, we're limited. What are you doing? You said we want to show that that we care. So in a way, they are your customers, but they're also kind of like an employees. They're a hybrid of that, reps. Are you doing anything over the next couple of days to kind of demonstrate care, to have some fun, or to create interaction and dialogue? Anything that you've kind of set up or planned that might, as I said, spark the excitement?
Yeah, it's hard to do that with the amount of people and the unknownness of the actual people who are on that call. We're trying to make it a little bit fun. You know, it's got a theme that it's this lockdown, and you know the marketing people are doing different kind of things every day to try to make it fun.
Yep.
We brought in a motivational speaker who's from the Kansas City Chiefs because they won the Super Bowl last year. So we, you know, kind of hooked that in, and he was kind of able to bring together the motivation that we're trying to keep going even in these tough times. So can I say that it's fun? I don't know.
I mean,
we're trying our best to make it fun.
I mean, again, if you're obviously on Zoom, make sure you use those breakout rooms. You know, one of the best practices we've learned is you put 2 people into a breakout room and do a get to know you. So it's kind of like, hey, throughout the day, and again, in the production value, you just put them into different breakouts. So actually, similar to what Mark was kind of talking about before, just put people together. It's like that may not know each other. And you put them in there and you give them a question and just let them talk. You'll be amazed. We've been doing a lot of these. And the feedback that you get is having a one-on-one with someone to talk about a certain topic really elevates the interactivity. And I can guarantee if you do it, when we do this and we do the post surveys, it's the #1 thing people love more than anything else. So if you've got Zoom, use those breakout rooms. Anyone else got a thought about there? You know, because I think that's the piece. How do we're all using Zoom. We're using some form of platform. How are you bringing interactions to life? I think it's a really cool point. Lindell.
Yeah, Shane, my HR officer had one question for our team, and she asked them, in Guyana locally, if there's one person that you'd like to have a conversation with, who would that be? And let's say they say Shane, right? And she organized, well, I don't have a big team, it's only 5 of us. So she organized one-on-ones with those persons. And it was amazing how people reacted to the people that they would want to have a one-on-one or a conversation with. So I'm sure it can probably work in a really nice big organization or somewhere where you have real people that you can connect with.
Yeah, listen, again, Zoom's great. You know, you can max your 100 out. I know you can go above that. I think we can go up to 200, but we had a session with 80 plus people, and we put them into 40 breakout rooms. And again, giving them something to do. We did that once, and then in our other seminars, we've done it more and more. So in about a 90-minute session, we now do it 2 or 3 times because it really is people's favorite part of this. So, you know, that interactivity is there. The other piece that that people are thinking is we do a lot of team building too, because again, using the breakout rooms, again, we do one-on-ones, but you can do small groups together. And we've given them challenges to do team building, brain teasers to solve as a group, kind of one of those mental kind of challenges. And they really love that as well. And it's like your ability to say, well, it's using technology, it's not going to be the same. We have even done a session, one of my trainers last week, where they were doing role plays in there. Obviously, they weren't necessarily acting it out, but they were actually practicing different verbiage. So we've been impressed with what you can do in terms of team building and relationship building over sort of a piece of technology. And I think that's the key, is that opening up those ideas is something that it really requires you to go, hey, how do I make this different? What about for you, Mark? I know you do a lot of this stuff. Again, what would be your best practice of how you can bring those technology-based meetings to life? Did he jump off?
Yeah, it looks like
I think we lost Mark.
Yeah.
It did that. So let's kind of go. So again, a couple of ideas, Charles, out there. Let's kind of flip back now to the internal. And again, Charles, you mentioned you're bringing people back into the office now, but there's social distancing, there's masks. What do you see then as your biggest leadership challenge in terms of keeping this culture and these people kind of together as a team? What sort of things have you tried, or at least you're thinking about trying? And let's sort of make that the next part of this discussion.
Well, so, I don't know that I'm doing a great job of it because we're social distancing. I think the biggest challenge for me is that interaction that's face to face, and I talk to you, you talk to me. We're no longer meeting in a conference room where I can get the feedback from you, from your body language as well as what you're saying, right? So it's kind of a different dynamic, I think, when it comes to that. So I've been trying to, I have a mask around here somewhere. So I've been trying to approach people with my mask on and at least have some sort of a conversation with them daily if I can. We have a couple people who, due to either their medical situation or one of their family members' medical situation, they are still working from home, even though the company is back. So I try to communicate with them. We also use Teams.
Yep.
So there's a kind of a chat function there. So I try to keep in touch that way and call them on the phone. Probably the biggest issue is I have one employee who works out of our Houston office, and he is part of my team here in Kansas, but he works out of the Houston office. So that's kind of it's an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, because he's down there and he's doing his thing. So it's really difficult to remember every day that, hey, Jack's down there and I need to freaking talk to him. So I've just been trying to.
Was he down there before the virus, or is this something that's new?
No, he was there before, but there's so many things that I have to do now that I didn't have to do then. I've really got to be conscious to make sure that, everybody gets talked to and understands that I'm still here and can answer the questions.
Yeah, again, this came up actually a few weeks ago, and the advice I can give you is don't feel that you have to do all the communication, and particularly when you've got a remote workforce. So if there's some people in the office, you might take a moment today and go over to Mary's desk and you social distance and you kind of give her the update and says, Mary, you're in charge of Jack today. So Mary then gets on and Scott, if it's Jack. So what a lot of managers are going, I feel overwhelmed to try and get to everybody. The thing I can say is don't make it your responsibility to be the one. Culture, everyone has to be involved in culture. And so by sharing some of that load, one, it ensures that all the different people get to connect. So it kind of forces Mary and Jack now talk today. Then they spent 10 minutes. Most of it was, hey, what does it feel like to be back in the office? Hey, how does it feel? It just keeps that connection going. And that allows you then to pass on. It's creating team building, creating relationships, and it's making and allowing your time to be a little bit more effective. So keep that sort of best practice, because I think it's a really good kind of reminder about us.
That's a really great point, by the way, Shane.
Yeah, no, and again, we brought it up. It really worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think
Lindell, kind of over to you. What was that?
Right. Okay. So one of the things that I think that is a challenge for me is that I think I could describe myself as pretty level-headed and understanding what's going on around me, even in my personal life, and be able to compartmentalize it. I don't think that is the same for everyone, and I'm not expecting that, but I see that as a leadership challenge because there are quite a few of we have trainers who are not full-time employees, but they are contractors. So I am finding that some of them are really affected personally by what is going on. So it is the COVID as well as the long drawn out elections period. I think I was saying earlier, I'm not sure that Charles was there when I was talking about that. And so they are really impacted by that, whereas there are others who can compartmentalize a little like me. So the empathy for me is really to be able to deal with various persons and what they are going through. There's another issue to do with that, and that is I found that a lot of people are coming up very sad because they either know someone who's died, they know someone who's ill or something like that, or even a family member. So as a leader, I think it is really challenging for us to be able to, well, we could say empathize, but I believe it is to be able to give each one of them that kind of attention. And I have asked the HR officer particularly to help me along in that regard. I'm not sure if anyone else has any kind of solutions or how they would deal with that one.
Yeah, I kind of jumped a little bit on what we just talked with Charles. So we did it with Win. And so what we did is that, and again, employees were on furlough and all that. So we had all the managers and we assigned every manager 12, 13 different employees. And they weren't necessarily employees from their own department. So they weren't sort of connected naturally in the workday. And what happened was every manager, they were responsible for every week for giving a phone call and reaching out and creating a personal sort of profile on how people were doing, what their needs were, and sort of an awareness factor. And so it goes back to what sort of Charles said, as one leader or one manager, you can't do it all, nor should you try. So don't be afraid to spread the wealth. The next part to that, which I thought was interesting, is various support groups that have been created in different organizations. Obviously, up here in the US, there's just so much going on. But one of the things that we've seen that's worked really well is the ability of people wanting to create their own support group, utilizing, obviously, whether it's Teams or Zoom. So the company becomes a facilitator of support, but not the reliance of the only place they get support. So don't feel, and again, don't feel that you have to be all things to all people. What you have to demonstrate in these times is care. You should need to be focused on staying connected and building relationships. But what I would argue is that it's very hard for one person to do it. I've never believed that there is one person in a company that can be a leader to everyone, meaning can be all things to all people at all moments. But different people, and I always remind people of this, some of the best and strongest leadership doesn't come from a person with a title. It actually comes from a coworker or someone on the main floor. Leadership is just the ability to inspire a heart and mind. You don't need a title to do that. So engaging some of your key and what I call informal leaders, people without titles, to be a part of this, to give them the ability to create their support systems, and being a facilitator of that support network becomes something, and again, we see it more with younger people, becomes something that a lot of company cultures are now turning to. They're not relying on the formal system to be all things to all people, but the informal network is becoming just as strong. Traditional companies go, well, wait up, I'm not controlling that. And I kind of say you weren't controlling it anyway. If there were informal leaders and there were groups getting together, they were doing that without you. What they're seeing now is that you understand that this is a critical part of their experience. And so the fact that you facilitate that or allow it to be facilitated says a lot about you as an organization. Mark, I know, is back with us, but that's a great way to say, I trust you. Because I think trust is something that traditional organizations have been fearful of. It's the reason they haven't allowed their workers to work from home. Because they're fearful of if you work from home, you're going to goof off for a whole day. Every bit of research, Mark may have got this as well, that I've seen in the last month is that productivity has stayed the same or if not gone up. And as a result, all of a sudden people, well, why didn't we do this before? It's because we didn't trust you. That we have to move to an idea that we can't micromanage, we macromanage. Macromanage means look at the bigger picture and create within that opportunities for people to connect and talk and be sociable, but don't feel you have to control the conversation. Don't feel that you have to control what everything has been said because you didn't before, but now you're able to facilitate it. So I look at that actually as one of the good things to come out of this is that traditional based organizations that were in the past going, we could never do this with work from home, has actually realized it is actually okay. And I'll tell you that the people that performed, that were great performers at work in the office are even better performers at home. The people that were crappy in the office are still crappy at home. So it comes back to how your performance coaching, and I think this is something that a lot of managers I've talked to are challenged by. They're like, well, how do I coach them now remotely? How do I have that? I go, it's the same cadence. You have what you do. What I think is interesting for companies is how they do it has evolved. We're seeing that maybe the values need to evolve of organizations to fit this new time, but how they do work has evolved, but what they deliver must remain the same. And as long as what and how is clearly defined, then performance can be defined and you can still coach to that. So I think I'm excited at the possibilities of this evolution of experience. If you look at younger people, it's been the number one benefit they've asked for, flexibility to work from home some days, not all days, but some days. So I think being able to look at now at how to blend that and how to connect, Charles, you said you've been dealing with Jack in Houston for a while. So in some ways, you should be quite experienced at this idea of remote workforce if you'd addressed it. And I think this is a piece that we're all being forced to address it. And now, what can we do to maintain the productivity elements that I think have come out of this forced, remote, virtual world we now live in? Mark, good to see you back. We've just been talking about, okay, what are we doing and what are the opportunities that we can see to kind of keep people engaged and, from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a storm go through and it knocked out the power. So it took a little while to get everything back up.
I mean, your background does not belie the idea of a storm, so well done.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So how do you keep folks engaged? Here's what I'm seeing in Atlanta, Georgia these days. We were one of the first states to open, so we're out and meeting one-on-ones now. We're allowed to have meetings up to 50 people coming up soon. So those in your town, for instance, with Lindell, she may meet people in her own town easily. It's not as easy to go somewhere else like New York or Boston or wherever. So I think if you're trying to maintain a distant relationship and people still working from their homes all around the world or the country, I think a check-in call really does a lot. And maybe it's, it doesn't always have to be on Zoom either. It can be just a phone call. Just pick up the phone, call someone, or just say, hey, reach out, send them a text, say, I'd like to chat, just see how you're doing. I've done that with my friends as well as some business relationships as well. And it's just, just being human and being open to having a conversation, not dominating it.
Yeah, listen, it was funny. We had a call with a group of thought leaders yesterday, and they brought that up. Picking up the phone now is quite the art because we were losing that at 100 miles an hour. But it is. It used to be like, well, picking up the phone is better than an email. Well, again, maybe picking up the phone and talking, which creates a different form of communication than Zoom, is quite powerful. So it's really, really great point that you brought up. So what do you see then for the future? And again, I think, we've all got leadership experience here. What do you see as being the key leadership trait or habit that as we move into this, and again, I think it is still an unknown, even as we're starting to get back to work, what do you see as being something that really managers, leaders need to think about a lot more than maybe they did in the past? Mark, start with you.
Well, certainly being more empathetic and not pushy. I've got a few friends that are salespeople types working for big companies, and almost all of them are saying, I'm really being stressed out by my boss. So, instead of pushing for numbers and trying to achieve things that we in the past had as goals, reset your goals, so you don't stress people out. Otherwise, you might lose them. So I think being realistic and understanding, hey, last year we did this. We might not be able to do that this year. So shoot for this instead. Maybe also extend responsibilities beyond just a direct, sales or numbers and sales to things like, how many new relationships did you make? Even if you didn't make a sale, did you make a relationship? Right. And what are you doing in that area? That's my thought, because I don't see us coming together anytime realistically until next year sometime.
Listen, it was funny that you're right. Everyone should be resetting expectations and goals right now. What comes out of that, though, is also an opportunity to challenge and ask yourself, is our mission and purpose still the same? Are we still focused on the same big picture? I always say that companies must have higher order goals, the big picture, the mission of what they're doing. As long as that hasn't changed, the goals within that, absolutely. And when I talk to the salespeople, I say the number one thing you better be talking about is market share. You're not going to get the same revenues this year, but don't lose a client because someone else came in and had a better relationship. Don't come out of this. And at the same time, use that as your challenges. Like, listen, if you can pick up a new client, they may not be spending any money with you today, But the opportunity that you've built that relationship, I think, is a fantastic goal. Relationship-based selling should have been happening anyway, but the fact that that's now the only thing you can kind of do, I think, is a fantastic piece of advice. So good stuff. Lindell, what about for you? What do you see as being the sort of the leadership focus, or at least the habits that they should be focusing on in the near short term?
I believe that they should be looking at, for one, how to put people at the center of focus of their mission going forward, particularly when it comes to retooling for the future. We have a lot of time. People, we are all looking, to re-educate, reshape what we've learned. And therefore, as a leader, I am thinking about maybe, can I retool whilst the pandemic is going on? What are my staff doing, my teams doing about retooling, and what does that mean for my company? So, for going forward, I would put people at the very center of what we do.
Yeah, and Mark said it before, like, be human. We really
Yes.
have to come back into the humanness. All right, so Charles, what do you think? What's your thing for the future? Where do we go? What do you think that important leadership habit is?
Well, I'm going to try to keep it short-winded this time. I think you hit on the major point for me. I think trust. I think we've got to trust that our employees are, whether they're working in the office or at their house, that they are working for the company's best interest, and they're going to do what needs to be done to make sure that we are successful. The second thing I think is important is I've been, small wins. If somebody books a freaking $2,000 order, right, that's a win. So I'm trying to make it as exciting as you possibly can in the situation. Every time we book something, it's better than doing 10 minutes in the bookings.
I love it. And again, I think I go back to, guys, focus at a macro level, not a micro level. Micromanages, there wasn't a place for them before, but now I think it's even less so. We keep it at a higher order. My big piece is there's 3 ideas that I sort of give, and I think for leaders, I've already kind of mentioned curiosity. Be out there asking a lot of questions right now. The opposite of curiosity is grandiosity. Grandiosity means I know it all. I don't think anybody knows it all right now. So be curious. We talked about those questionings, whether it's for customers or employees. All of you have mentioned empathy. I think make sure you're listening. Be empathetic and understanding to people's individual situations, and then be a little generous. How can you help people today? Because again, being a little generous, being a little human, I think is going to go a long way in setting the stage for what the future looks like. So I appreciate you all coming together today and just sharing some ideas. It's just nice to hear from different viewpoints, different parts of the world, and being able to know that I think we are all in this together. We are all working through this. And, I urge, and again, Abraham, as we hand it back to you, to sort of say, hey, don't be afraid to reach out to any of us as you've got questions or thoughts, because this is what we are all about as leaders. We're all in this together. No one has the right answer, but maybe we have the answer that might help you, and hopefully maybe a couple of these answers helped you today.
Great. Well, I really appreciate that. And I put a link for next week's webinar in there, as you see, that we're just trying to line up information for you folks and just give you stuff, because you're not going to find yourself in this one of those pitch webinars, where we're trying to sell you stuff. So we just want to help. That's what, the Customer Service Professional Network's all about. I think that's what the CX Talks is all about too. If you don't know about the CX Talks, I think, did you put your link into your CX Talks in there? I think that's good.
I didn't, but it's cxtalks.org.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you can put your link in there, yeah.
Sure.
And because Mark is also providing value to something like what I do. And next week's roundtable is actually kind of a pivoting off of this, where Shane is going to be bringing out, discussing the challenges of maintaining and building great culture in a time of crisis. And certainly there's a lot of false beliefs that people have. The myths that are out there that Shane's going to do some myth busting next week. You don't have to do anything to sign up. the way I have it worked out is I will send you an invitation, and all you'll have to do is click a link, and because you're already on our list, and then you'll be confirmed in, and then you'll just get the emails and to come next week. And every week we're going to try to get something together, for you, so you can and feel free to invite your colleagues to come along.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, please. And we love having an international crowd. I mean, we're getting people from all over the world. Where I'm in Israel, and you're in South America, and you folks are in the U.S. So there you have it. We got the world cover over here, right?
Excellent.
Absolutely.
It was a great conversation. I appreciate you guys letting me join. So
yeah, listen, you reach out, to us, whatever, if you have any ideas, you feel that we can bring to you and to, all of you there. And you can also reach out to Mark too. He's also looking for things to provide value as well, for you as well. So, we're just here. And also obviously Shane, is doing a lot of good stuff. And I highly recommend just reach, directly out to Shane. And as you see, he's a person, not a, yeah, so it's exactly. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Lyndall?
Thanks,
Yes,
everybody,
just to say
for
to
joining
you
us.
that I am the co-founder for the Women's Chamber of Commerce in Guyana.
Oh,
And so
wow.
Congratulations.
thank you. And so we are looking to extend as well. And,
Gotta go, guys.
okay,
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we will be, this is excellent and good for us.
Great. And feel free to have your people over there reach out to us and join our community over here. Well, you're already in in our community.
Yes.
So that's great. We're really, please. Do you know a John Scholl? Has he ever reached out to you?
He has, his network has, and they're somewhere in South America. I think it's the Institute of Service Quality, how they're called. I have been trying to link with them, and it has just been difficult. So so that was like when I just started.
Yeah, I know John, and when you mentioned service quality, that's what made me think maybe John. So, that's interesting.
I actually studied in London, so service quality is one of the things that I've done.
Oh, wonderful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I know everybody's got the rest of their day to go after. We're over here at like 10 o'clock at night. So, we're going to, we got the rest of our night happening here. So thank you so much. And please, we hope to see you all again, and participating. These gestures, our webinars are more like discussions anyway. Shane does, he really brings out some great ideas to you, but he opens it up for these types of discussions. So please feel free to come, invite your friends, and join us for more stuff.
Great job.
Definitely will. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good day, everybody.
And Mark, if
Bye-bye.
you want to, if you have anything you want me to help you promote or whatever for your stuff, feel free to just, whatever we can do, to help each other out. That's what it's all about right now.
Absolutely.
It's what it's been all about for the whole time.
Indeed.
Circles.
Exactly.
Okay then.
All right.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, guys.
Good job.
Hey.